Hi, group. This is Justin. You know me. Um, Matt, you prompted some really good questions that really made me think about this post really, really hard and long because ethics is something that we all not take for granted. We don't take ethics for granted, but it's kind of like a norm that we walk around with these values that we have already in our heads and that we say that, okay, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that because I stand for this and I stand for that. But as soon as they're challenged, do we usually stand for what we say we're standing for, or are we conflicted by other interests? Um, and your first question was to explore our own personal ethics. And one of my own personal ethics is inclusivity. I am a proponent for anything that includes anyone. I feel like everyone should have the opportunity to pursue, to persevere, to do anything they want to do because everyone should have that unalienable right, which is promised in our Constitution. Now, are we all given that right? No. And that's why there are people who fight for that right. There are people who fight for the right for others to vote. There are people who fight for the right for other people to get married who shouldn't, or who society believes shouldn't be married. There were people who were involved in that process, in changing that, in impacting that. And as my personal code ethics, I feel like it's my duty, um, gosh, what's the word we learned in class? Like we begin with a D. Um, y'all know what I'm talking about. That word that Dr. York brought up that speaks on how it's our duty or our obligation to help and to serve and to do what we're supposed to be doing. Um, what do I consider valuable to my day to day work? That really made me think. So when I first came to VSU, um, well, when I first even applied to VSU, got accepted and go through that whole process, when I was looking for the graduate assistantship, um, I was sitting at my computer at my work desk at USF, go Bulls. So I was sitting at my computer desk there, and an email came in from Mr. Lee, who at the time was the assistant dean who worked in student conduct, who was in the dean of students office. And it was saying how there was a position over, and he emailed all the graduate students who hadn't found an assistantship yet. And so I quickly contacted him because I was like, oh, I need an assistantship. I need a job. Um, and I had no experience working in the dean of students office, none whatsoever. I avoided that office. I never even ventured through that office before. And so I didn't see how my experience working in programming and student conduct and all other areas of USF I was at, how that kind of impacted or how that would help me work in dean of students office. So long story short, I ended up getting the position, and as Mr. Lee was describing the position to me or what I'll be doing, he was saying like he was speaking to me and telling me that I'm really looking forward to you coming here because we had another African American male who worked here last year, and unfortunately we have a high um, prevalence rate of African American males who come into our office. Prevalence and actually incidence rate, because both of them are high, who come into our office for violations such as this, such as marijuana, alcohol, whatever the case may be. And they come from single parent homes, they come from broken homes, they come from first generation households, they come from a plethora of different aspects that you too come from and identify yourself with. And even though I identify myself as the same, which is Mr. Lee talking, he was saying as a white male and as an older white male, he can't transform or he can't identify himself with their struggle because they don't look like him and they don't sound like him. And so for me, he wanted me, my duty, my obligation was to come in and to kind of be that face, be that ray of hope, be that possibility that they don't see or that they are blinded by seeing because they're doing these crimes. Basically, he wanted me to be that face to show like you can make it, you can do it, you can succeed. That you don't have to go on this path. And for me, when I heard that, I felt like that was my obligation, my opportunity to be that face, to be that person, to be that role model for those students that come into my office. And so I say that to say that, I took on that role unbeknownst of the responsibility of that role. And I had to really separate, and as you talked about personal biases, I had to really separate my bias because when I went into the office, I was more first focused on what me and Mr. Lee talked about over the summer was getting to those first year or getting to those African American students. My whole mindset was making sure that I can change every black student's mind on campus about being bad or breaking a code of violation. I just really felt like I could change the world, change their perspective. And as the year progressed, I noticed that that was not happening. More so than it was out of my control for it to happen, but also I noticed that the generation that I am now in touch with, or trying to get in touch with, I should say, is not as receptive to the information that you're giving them because they're blinded by this fallacy that it's cool to be this to be unruly. It's cool to be, you know, out of order. Um, but I also noticed there was an issue with outreach and information being disseminated within the university, within the students. And so that's been a barrier to, my job or my obligation to the students is that they are unknown about the policies and procedures that run an institution primarily for those who are first year students who never left home for just really naive to policies and procedures of the institution. And so the last question I want to go to touch on is how do you or how do I allow my students the opportunity to grow without pushing my own agenda? I definitely recently started doing this program now where I'm following up with students who are kicked out of housing. And so that's been a new issue for a new initiative for me because for me, I used to hate seeing students kicked out of house, especially if they were first year students, because I just felt like that was just the end of the world. I put myself and I empathized with them. Like if I had no place to go and it was the middle of the semester or even the beginning of the semester, where would I go in a city I don't know where anything is? I just moved here a month ago. This is my first time living on my own. What do I tell my parents? How am I going to afford this? There's so many questions that go awry. And you, as a student, you barely know what time your class is on Wednesday morning, let alone you have to figure out where you're going to live because you have to be out the dorm by Sunday at 5 o'clock. So now I started this process of following up with students, and I've kind of had them develop their own vision, understanding, okay, following kind of role model their process, trying to see what exactly they want to do, and provide the resources for them to do what they want to do. And so that's been my opportunity for me not to control them. Say you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to go see this person, you need to go see that person, you need to go talk to that person, you need to go this place. Now I'm more so saying, okay, what is your vision? And what do you see yourself doing? Where do you see yourself going? What does it look? Show me what you want to do, and let's go about doing it. And so that's been a way that I've more so pushed the agenda for them to be able to create their own scope or create their own identity rather than me pushing that, or being that parent to push this whole thing on them. But I do thank you for this prompt, Matthew. It was very intensive, and I thoroughly enjoyed speaking on ethics because I love ethics. Ethics is cool. When you should all have your own personal code of ethics. But yeah, all right, cool. I think I'm just rambling now, so I'm gonna stop. And this video is like 8 minutes long, so yeah. But yeah, all right, cool. Good night, guys. See you in class Thursday.